We're going to go back and cover conflict, but in a different way in this chapter. And as we know, conflict is a clash in individuals or maybe in a group's values, maybe their differences in beliefs, attitudes, and expectations. They're a little bit more than just a simple disagreement. A conflict can be a strategic tool when you address it appropriately, and it can actually serve to deepen and develop many human relationships. So why do we study conflict? Well, it helps us to maximize our strengths within a group, to learn more why individuals within groups choose and need conflict at sometimes more than others, and to produce better outcomes, including your patient care related goals. Here's some definitions about conflict, if you want to look at those. Increasing our knowledge about the role stress plays within conflict is actually very critical. There's gender differences that exist that may explain, at least in part, why women are known to either avoid or use compromise, why men may be more aggressive and use those aggressive techniques, neither of which may completely solve a conflict. The recent SBAR communication tools that actually focus on some toolkits that characterize those clear, definite, succinct exchanges and information. They're widespread and used based on the premise that a stressful situation is more likely to lend itself to conflict and negative patient outcomes. Think about the last time you tried to convey information to a physician about a patient's status, and you don't have all the information, and the physician gets very maybe abrupt with you, a little short with you, frustrated, and a conflict can ensue after that. And just like everything else, we have stages of conflict. We have that frustration, and it builds up, and then someone begins to conceptualize it, and then action comes about, and then we have the outcomes. And so those are the stages, whether it's good or a bad conflict. Your textbook does a good job explaining the different modes of conflict resolution, so you can definitely look those up. And there's several slides in here that I wanted you to look at, because it talks about the different types of conflict resolution, and it lets you kind of quiz yourself. What kind of person are you when it comes to conflict? Do you avoid? Do you accommodate? Are you more competitive? Are you a negotiator or a compromiser? So look at those and these next several slides and try to answer some of those questions and see what where you stand in there. I hope you stopped and paused the recording to answer some of those questions. When we're selecting an approach to resolve conflict, the nature of the differences, maybe the underlying reasons, the importance of the issue itself, strength of feelings, commitment, and goals are all involved. Effective approaches can be considered, but they need to match the situation. Not everyone has the same experiences nor the memory of the same conflict. People see things differently and pick out different things in that conflict than others. So everyone perceives it differently. Sometimes a third party may be added in there into a conflict so that mediation can occur. And mediation is usually a learned skill that someone definitely has to learn, and it does obtain advanced training or certification. The mediator is usually an impartial helper who's going to assist each party in the conflict to better hear and understand each other. And we're going to go over some of these more in class, but these are the steps in how to resolve a conflict. Here we have some of the guidelines. And again, identify the need for a confrontation and the timing. Sometimes the timing can be the worst time ever, and we're going to go over some examples of that in class. You want to make sure you identify the problem, identify the behavior that is required, and with this, you can actually establish credibility and not the blame game, but looking at the problem. Remain empathetic to the other person's side. Everyone has a story and a reason why they're doing something. Avoid the personal attacks. Once you start the personal attacks, you're going to really hurt the compromise and helping to come to a good meeting of the minds. I'll put it that way. And use genuine humor only if it's appropriate and when it's appropriate. We're going to go over some chapters that actually go into this a little bit more, but I did want to bring up and show you this slide, and it's managing lateral violence and bullying. And so you're looking at lateral violence, and make sure you look at that definition along with bullying. I also have one more self-assessment for you to look at in these next two slides, and it's on collaboration. Okay, that's all I have. So see if you do those, and we'll talk about some of your self-assessments in class.